Hey guys, welcome to the Wedding Film School Show. My name is Jared. Today we're going to be talking about why 2021 is the best year to become a wedding videographer.
I'ma get right in my bag. Why you gonna try to get mad? Everybody wanna keep up. Don't you know I move too fast? I'ma zip right past. Drip all on my swag.
Hey guys, welcome to the Wedding Film School Show. My name is Jared, and welcome to the maiden voyage of the show. I have joined with me today Mr. Jason McCutcheon. How's it going, Jason?
It's going awesome. Before we get into the show, I just wanted to tell you guys today's show is brought to you by one of our favorite lighting companies, like in a real serious. We actually really love this company, and we got a really cool deal for you. Kinotenic, which if you head over to their website, you can actually get 25% off your entire purchase, which they make the Practilite, which in my opinion is like the perfect light for wedding filmmakers. So head on over there and enter our special code, which is WFS25, Wedding Film School 25, WFS25. Head over to their website. It's kind of funny. And so I'm going to spell it out for you guys listening on the podcast. KINOTEHNIK.com. Head over there, get 25% off your Practilite and really your entire purchase. It's an awesome light. But anyway, so that's our sponsor today. That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. But we're excited because we got an awesome show for you guys today. And this is our first show doing the Wedding Film School show. We couldn't be more pumped about doing it.
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing a show called Wedding Pros for a couple years at this point, year and a half, 2 years roughly. And so we were really excited when we started talking to Bobby, started talking to Jason about how we could kind of combine forces and come on just as a regular cadence to Wedding Film School by just kind of starting conversations really through a podcast. The thing I love about podcasts is just we can actually have like a real conversation and not just like produce YouTube content, which also Wedding Film School has always been really good at. I think they're really the original, YouTube creators when it comes to wedding videography and wedding filmmakers and just equipping people.
Yeah. If you're listening, by the way, on the podcast and you are a Wedding Pros listener and you're not familiar with Wedding Film School, I encourage you, if you really want to get familiar with them, head over to YouTube. Just look at Wedding Film School. They have a lot of the top videos on YouTube for wedding filmmaking. Behind the scenes videos, gear stuff, tutorials. It's really a great resource for aspiring wedding filmmakers, active, professional, just anybody in that kind of sphere of influence. And one of the things that we look at when we think about what does it mean to be a filmmaker is like you're always learning. Nobody's out of wedding film school. Like you're always learning, you're always growing. And so we were like, how do we take this, create something that we think fits within the ecosphere of Wedding Film School, enhances it, and helps more people come along and learn. So that's why we're doing this weekly show.
Yeah. I like the fact that we're doing this and kind of just having regular conversations because, as you know, and if you're at any stage of your wedding filmmaking journey, it can be pretty intimidating. You have a lot to learn, especially when you're just starting out. So I think the idea behind the show and really Wedding Film School as a whole is to help equip people, especially when you're just kind of starting out, when you're just trying to be a sponge and take as much information as possible. I think our hope is also that if you are an experienced veteran in the wedding industry, that there's plenty of great information that you'll be able to take from the show and from the YouTube channel. You can log on and learn about very specific pieces of gear, how to use them, how to set up gimbals, whatever you want to learn. But also, part of your education is just being around other really great filmmakers and hearing the way they talk, the way they interact, what they're thinking about. And that's more where the podcast comes into play, right? Yeah. Where you can actually just hear people's thoughts, right?
And getting people involved. I think it's a big deal. Not only can you listen to a podcast where we interview some of the best minds, the best filmmakers in our industry, or just photographers or anybody who we think will add value to wedding filmmakers, but you can connect with them. We're hopefully going to be creating a range of ways you can actually get involved and ask questions. And for us, that's a big deal. It's not just giving you content, educating you. We're the bosses. We know the most because we don't know the most. We do our best, but and we have experience. And I think there's some things we've learned over the years, but certainly we don't have the market cornered on what it means to be a wedding filmmaker. we want to plug you in with people who have a different perspective, who are better, who know more, who've achieved things that we haven't achieved, give you an ability to have access to those people.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I guess, it's probably beneficial to tell people like who the heck we are. And, obviously we ran Wedding Pros for a while, but Jason and myself have actually been involved in the wedding industry doing, I'm a photographer and videographer. We've started just doing filmmaking, and I've kind of straddled both. Jason does a lot of filmmaking, a lot of editing. And we've been running our business together since 2010. So we've been around for a while. We've learned a lot. We've been around a lot of awesome people. And so I think our hope, like Jason was saying, is just bring whatever level of experience that we have, but also talking to people that are way better than both of us put together at wedding filmmaking. And kind of more of what we do is we have seen our business be very successful. And so that's kind of where we're able to really sharpen people. That's really kind of where our expertise is. And so that's something that we're also really excited to kind of bring to the podcast, is just how to make money creating art. Right?
So speaking of successful people,
yes,
we're not doing this alone. We have
Thank God.
some other people involved in the channel still who are going to be helping us kill it. And one of them is Bobby Burns, and he's here today. What's up, Bobby?
What's up, guys?
Thank you for joining, man, dude. And thank you for, asking us to kind of be a part of the wedding film school journey and evolution and what it's kind of turning into. We're really excited to be a part, man.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we're all excited, which is awesome. But yeah, I love what you guys are saying. I mean, I know that what you guys bring to the table is going to be amazing. I know we've been talking about this for a little while. I've always admired Wedding Pros and you guys. I think let's see, when did we meet? Was it 2 years ago? It was at Vision Quest. I don't know exactly when that was. I'm really bad with dates.
We met a few times.
Oh, yeah.
We slid into each other's DMs,
yeah.
I think, leading
That's
up to
how you do it in
Quest
2021, right? So,
yeah.
yeah, I know, like, I think I've had you guys on Wedding Film School. I think I've been on your podcast. So I know we've always, like, collaborated and stuff. But yeah, just, like, you guys are two awesome guys, which I loved. Your knowledge, obviously, is there. And then, yeah, I know we kind of talked about, like, how can we collaborate? How can we do some stuff? And it just kind of made sense, right? Like, the more we talked about it, to just join forces. And so I'm really excited for that. Super pumped for the Wedding Film School show. Like, Wedding Film School has always been, we always try to make it the premier wedding filmmaking education platform on YouTube, and kind of just, we have our Facebook group and other places as well. But a podcast is just so complementary to what we're trying to do, which I love. Like, you can make videos on how to do this technique, or right gimbal moves, or how to structure your pricing or stuff. But like for YouTube, a lot of that traditionally on Wedding Film School has been these kind of condensed, 10 minutes, maybe even less videos. And podcasts really are going to give, filmmakers in the industry that ability to really kind of deconstruct something deeper and have those deeper conversations. So, I'm pumped for what that's going to mean for people at any stage, like you said. Like, whether you're brand new, like, yeah, you need the camera basics types videos too, which are still going to be there. Like, we're still going to be busting out content, the three of us, aside from the podcast, which I'm pumped for. Gear reviews, all that stuff too. But especially whether you're new, or especially, if you've been in the industry for a while, like you said, it's going to be those kind of like mind melds and like tapping into like these top creators, right? And what's going through their head, and where's their mind at, and what are they thinking about on a day? So really pumped for what this is going to do.
So Bobby, you kind of brought up something that I was going to ask you about, but just like Wedding Film School is a big part of what I would consider a small community of people, which is wedding filmmakers, and so, how do you see the future of the community growing? And it's not just about content. It's not just us telling you this is what you should be doing, but it's us, the channel, the Facebook group, the show, really helping to really take a group of that's really a small. I mean, we're a small crew, man. Wedding filmmakers. There's not tons and tons of us, even though it feels like they're a dime a dozen. They really aren't. And ultimately, like,
it's a revolving door too, because you have people that come in, learn through weddings, and then they're going to commercial work or music, whatever they're doing.
I think I remember seeing somewhere the average wedding filmmaker is only in it for 2 years.
Yeah, building block. Yep.
Or they just flame out, which we don't want.
Yeah.
But ultimately, like, we want to build community. So kind of tell me a little bit about, like, our vision for building community as Wedding Film School. Tell our listeners.
Yeah, I mean, that community is kind of the biggest aspect of what all of us involved want. Like, we want Wedding Film School to be that place where you can be, like, you're tapping into that Facebook group, you're watching our, binge watching our YouTube videos 2 nights before your first wedding, and, really being able to follow with us. Wedding Film School is not a linear track. It's not a course in itself. But having the ability to really go to one location and not only watch, great videos that are going to get you prepared or let you learn new techniques or dive into how to price yourself or something like that, but also having that group aspect where, we have, like you said, it's not just us. We're not the only people who know how to do something right? We have that community aspect. Where you can grow with that community, you can reach out to that community. You have like these amazing people who are established, who, do great work, who are pushing, outside the box, stuff like that to tap into as well. And so, I think, that growing that community is what our number one goal is. And we have a few ways that we want to do that. The podcast is one of them. We have some other big things upcoming too that we're not announcing right now, but just
we when you think about like getting better, ultimately, getting better ultimately ends up having more to do with the people you surround yourself with, even than the content that you ingest. And so we know that and like when you say like our goal is to help wedding filmmakers get better, we know maybe at the beginning all you need is a couple tutorials, right? When you first start out, if you just know how to set your camera and you go shoot the job, you get the job, it's really more about like you're just white knuckling it.
Yeah.
But I think at one point in your career you're gonna start running into a place, and I think this is where people start flaming out, is they like, I know what I'm doing, I know how to set my camera up, I know how to do audio, I feel like I'm pretty happy with what I'm making, but I'm getting burnt out, I'm getting tired, I'm hitting a ceiling in my revenue, I'm not feeling like I'm like, there's just some mistake maybe I keep making that, and that's where you start needing people. Mm-hmm. And you start needing community.
Yeah, you need that community, and I think there are kind of 2 points where that community really helps. The first, and you kind of mentioned both of them, but the first one is, when is that transition from like, we mentioned like, okay, the average is 2 years that people are staying in the industry, whether they burn out or whether they aren't running a successful business or whether they're going on to bigger or different things, right? But what is that transition point where wedding filmmaking becomes a career for you? And that, that can be different points for different people, but having people who have done that, who have made that jump, who have, and a lot of the career aspect really, it doesn't revolve around making the best film. Obviously that can help you if you have the best film and you can market it right. Awesome. But like, it really revolves around running a business well. And so that's one thing that I'm really excited to have, you guys as part of Wedding Film School now. That's something that I've always pitched in the wedding film community in general, but like, it's so important to be able to run a successful business. Yeah. And having that community and having other people who are willing to speak to that and willing to share what they've learned along the way, because like between us, we're at like, I think we're just under 40 years of experience between the three of us, right? Like, yeah. And think about like there's some huge people that we know and are in the Wedding Film School Facebook group and stuff like that, right? Where like, it's just so much experience that you can learn from like mistakes, honestly, right? Like we've all been there, we've all made mistakes.
If you're not part of the group, by the way, I want to encourage you, go check out that Facebook group. Join the group, and like Bobby was saying, you can literally get access to pretty much the best people in our industry like that. Yeah. And they will like respond. They're cool dudes, cool ladies.
Yeah. We keep on talking about, community, and I think it can become pretty cliche. Like it's like, oh, join the community, blah blah, whatever. And it's like, I don't know, it's kind of a marketing term nowadays.
Sure.
But I feel like we were lucky, and Bobby, I think you were lucky. And I look at all of the people that have been really successful in their businesses. They've had a person like Jason and I started Stop Go Love 12 years ago. Bobby, you had Micah that was kind of like your iron sharpens iron. Like, she might be doing really well and you're kind of down. You can kind of build each other up. I look at Alex and Whitney. I look at Henry and his brother. Like, I look at all of really the most successful people. They have a support system that kind of encourages them to carry on. And I feel bad for the people out there who are just like, look, I love video. I love what I'm doing, but it's hard. It gets really hard to run your own business.
I was talking to a kid in Indiana, doing a consult, like a coaching session. Really nice kid. And he's telling me he doesn't know any other filmmakers. He's never second with anyone. His films, he's doing it by himself. And he's just looking for connections. He's looking for mentorship. He's looking for friends. And I think that's a lot of people. Like, that's like the difference. And like basically what he needed me to do was give him the confidence to do the thing he already was planning on doing.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people are sitting out there and like, maybe this isn't directly related to a podcast, but I think it's related to our goals for what Wedding Film School could be and is. And it's a lot of you guys are like, you're on the edge to making a really awesome decision. Oh, becoming full-time, maybe changing your editing style, upping your prices, lowering your prices, increasing your volume. Who knows, like some decision in your business, and it's right, but you just need somebody to give you that encouragement or maybe that critique. I mean, I think part of the lineage of Wedding Film School is critique.
Mm-hmm.
So
certainly.
Before you go, Bobby, I wanted to bring up something that I think is a big part of Wedding Film School, because it's not just about community and encouragement. One side of community is critique, getting better, encouraging each other by giving each other really critical feedback. And so one of, I think, the coolest parts about Wedding Film School, and if you go back through the channel, you'll see stuff that you've done, stuff that Craig has done, of just giving people film critiques. And I think that's just so valuable and such a really cool thing. Why don't you kind of talk about some of our plans for continuing that legacy and maybe even upping the ante a little bit?
Yeah, so I mean, like Jason said, if you go back through Wedding Film School, you can see, Craig did consistent critiques. And then when I took over, I tried to continue that, not only with films though, but films, website, and pricing guide. Different weeks had different things, or sometimes I mix them all together, just because I really think that those three things are big factors in being successful. And no matter what stage you're at, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to change something, but having a second set of eyes that's in the industry, having other people who have experience, maybe not on a film, let's say I'm pricing, right? I know how I price, and I can say, hey, if this is working for you, awesome, but here's maybe a change that I would make because I see this and it looks like a lot of information to me. And as a bride, I might be scared, right? Because really the people who are mostly interacting with our pricing guides or with our websites are not other professionals in the industry. So I think we can all learn from each other there. So I've really enjoyed doing that. And then of course, film critiques, no matter where you're at, whether you're brand new or you've been doing this for a decade, we can all change, we can all grow, we can all be inspired. And so those film critiques are huge. Super excited. I've done a handful of them, testing them out on some live streams, and we're gonna plan to continue that, to do this a consistent thing starting next week with those website, film, and pricing critiques. So yeah, it should be really awesome, and that's really community-based too. It ties right back into the community, of course, of growing, but we get some awesome live chats, during the live stream with people involved, whether it's their film or not. Everybody can offer up. I think we're all firm believers that no matter where you're at, you can still be constructive. You can still receive criticism, and you can still give constructive criticism. Everybody has ideas, and I love that aspect of it. So that will be on the YouTube channel live, and you can find out where to submit You can find, of course, the live stream itself on YouTube, on our Facebook group. So I'd encourage you guys to go over there. You can check those out. We'll, post it a few days before to gather some films and stuff like that to critique. So
yeah, definitely follow, join the Facebook group. That's the best place to get information about what's going on. If you want to submit a film, we're going to post a link over there. We can probably post a link actually in the description on this video on YouTube as well. If you're listening on a podcast platform and that sounds like something that's cool to you, either head over to YouTube or head over to the Facebook group and you can submit a film. And yeah, we're really excited to get going on that. Anyway, hey, Bobby, thank you so much for popping in today. We're going to start talking today about really why 2021 is going to be the best year for wedding filmmaking ever. And that's what we're talking about today. So anyway, thank you so much for joining the show. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Love it. And I'll see you guys in another show.
Look, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. Can we be a little bit transparent here? I'm going to tell you one of my deepest, darkest secrets. I actually really don't enjoy editing that much. If you were to give me the option between shooting and editing, I would pick shooting 11 times out of 10. And if you've been editing and doing video production for any length of time, you know that dread in your heart as you know wedding after wedding after wedding keeps on mounting up, piling up on your backlog. It really sucks. I hate it, and I'm sure you do too. So what can you do about it? You can, of course, ignore it. It's not gonna go away. You can hire a video editor to work on staff. Maybe it costs you 50 to 60 grand plus taxes. Or you can simply reach out to our friends at No Backlog. They make it super easy to knock out edits while you focus on other more important things like growing your business and making more money. And that's what it's all about, right? Save time and money by working with a professional, reliable, and affordable video editing partner and get your life back today. You can spend more time with your kids, with your spouse, with your important other person, or you can simply just play more video games. I don't care. This is a no judgment zone, man. So make sure you're visiting nobacklog.com and get started today.
All right, guys, so welcome back to the Wedding Film School show. Today's topic we're going to talk about is why 2021 is the best year to become a wedding filmmaker, or to not become a wedding filmmaker, maybe. And the reason why I like this topic, I mean, first of all, it's we kind of disagree on it a little bit, which should be entertaining because usually, since we run the same business, usually we come to the same conclusions. But it's kind of more of a what the heck is the status of the wedding industry? What the heck is going on? Where is everybody? Is the wedding industry a mess? Is kind of just like a good starting out point for this podcast.
Well, and also, like, it's not really, what we're not saying is, I'm not trying to encourage you to become a wedding filmmaker. I'm assuming you're listening to this, you're already a wedding filmmaker.
Yes.
For the most part. But I think the idea that, like, industries are not static, that your position in the industry is also not static too. Like, if you're shooting 30 weddings this year or next year could either help you or hurt you depending on what other people decide to do, right? And it's this idea of, like, how is really just the wreckage of what happened in 2020 with our industry, which was a total cluster. How is that going to affect us going forward? And I think in some ways it's going to create some really awesome stuff too.
Yeah, I think one of the things we noticed very early on was that a lot of people are going to reschedule from 2020 to 2021. So what the heck does that look like? Like,
yep.
We are fully booked currently. Like, I know with our business, we do a lot of weddings. We have full teams. We have, a couple full-time editors. So we do a lot of weddings throughout the year. And now we're having to roll all those shooters that are going to be filming for us. Now they are filming probably the same amount of weddings in the next year, plus a whole entire extra season. So how are we able to do that? Like, we are kind of a scale model, I would say. And our solution is just, we can get more shooters. If you are a single videographer, you're kind of stuck to just, maybe instead of doing 20 weddings, now you have to do 40 weddings yourself. Or you're at full capacity already. You can't do any more weddings, right?
Yeah, we did a whole episode on the Old School Wedding Pros podcast talking about like how are we going to retain your revenue?
Yeah.
Right? And like either you're going to like shoot twice as many weddings.
Yep.
Or you're going to just be like, meh, you know, I'm going to just do what I can do and deal with whatever revenue hit you take. I think that's a lot of people. And the other thing is there's a massive decrease in supply. And
Yes.
whenever you get a decrease in supply, like you're seeing it with all these companies, right? When demand outpaces supply, that actually increases prices. It does a lot of things. It creates opportunity. I'll give you a really quick example. Peloton bikes. Me and my wife got one because we're going to get fit. Right?
Did you really?
Yeah. We're going to get fit.
How much is a Peloton bike?
I don't know, $2,500.
$2,500 for a bike?
Well, bike plus all the apps and the
Oh my gosh. You guys will never use that.
no. So she was going to. Well, here's the deal. That was the negotiation.
Okay.
Because we had another membership, and I was like, we're canceling this.
Yeah.
Anywho,
Yeah.
they're not shipping them because of coronavirus, and so what's happening? Their stock prices are actually going up because demand is crazy. They bought a new factory in the States, which will increase their ability. But then the other two things that are happening are, I guess one thing, but for two competitors, their competitors are now taking the market share from people who are pissed off and can't get their bikes.
Yes.
And the same thing is going to happen with wedding filmmakers.
Yep. Which kind of brings us to the point where point number one, demand has never been higher for wedding videographers, and also availability has never been lower for videographers. So you have all these people like us who have an established wedding film company who are just like, look, if I didn't have other people that I could train and bring our assistants into second shooters and then our second shooters into lead shooters, you know, we would be screwed. We would be topped off. We would be maxed out. And that's where I think a lot of people are. So there's opportunity there, right? So reason number one is you have more opportunity to work than ever before. People are looking for a videographer, and now, you know, they can't find any. So you have a shot to be that person.
Yeah, it's not just that they have opportunity in the sense that like there are more weddings. And that's one thing I would say. I don't think there are more weddings. I think there's going to probably be, maybe there's more. I don't know. It's hard to say how that's going to flesh out. But there's definitely less vendor supply. And so people are going to be calling people and saying, we have, I think, 3 days or 3 weekends where we have over 10 weddings.
On a full weekend.
On a full weekend.
Friday, Saturday,
Like-
Sunday.
like-
I think we have some that are 10, 12 even.
Yeah, and
3
so like
days,
if you
12
look at like a
weddings.
3-4 day window, and you know, that's us with a large volume. Other guys, if it's just you and you're driving up to a destination wedding, that's 2 days gone, 3 days gone, right? And so like the supply is just way, way, way down. And so if you're new, you're wanting to get into the industry, you have an opportunity to strike. And I would encourage you, like, if you're looking and going like, oh, is this a good time to get involved? Coronavirus. It's like, actually, it's a really good time to get involved.
I agree. And also, you know, I guess this is a 1.B of the first point that we made is usually when you start out your wedding videography journey, how are you starting? You're starting out, you're being like, I'll shoot your wedding for free. I'll shoot your wedding for $300, $500, whatever. You really, because of demand, and Mike McCallowitz talked about this when we first started, surge pricing. You don't have to actually start out saying, I'll shoot your wedding for free, because who else is the customer going to find if they're looking for somebody and everyone's already booked? They're going to go, I'll book you for $1,000. You don't have to undercut the competition because the competition is all booked, right?
This is a little tip. If you're getting a phone call from someone and they say, you know, oh, are you available? And you don't know what to do, you're new, and you can get the sense that they've spoken to other people, try to see who they spoke to, and then try to see what their prices are. And then charge what they charge. Or a little less if you're not comfortable. But like, they had the money to afford them, so they got money to give you. Like, now maybe they're like, you're my third choice. You want to be careful there.
Yeah.
But you certainly don't need to come in so low where you're like leaving money on the table.
Totally. And not to get too off topic with that, but just like, how many times have you seen people post to the Facebook group on Wedding Film School like, hey, I did a wedding for $300 and now one of the bridesmaids wants to book me and they're asking why I'm charging $1,500 a year later. And now they expect me to do the same film I delivered a year ago for $300. Now I'm charging more, and I'm kind of caught in between, right? When you just raise your prices right off the bat, you don't have to deal with a lot of that stuff. It's just people take you seriously right off the bat.
Yeah, I mean, we never have charged less than $2,500 for an edited wedding film.
Yeah.
Since the day we opened our doors.
Well, we did that first one for free.
Well, we said, who will let us do it? But the second we got a brand name and a website
Totally.
and like started promoting ourselves, we were like, I guess it's this much.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so what's the second reason why this is the best year?
Sure, yeah. So the second reason why 2021 is the best year to become a wedding videographer is because the gear has never been cheaper, right? Like one of my favorite cameras right now is the Fujifilm X-T4, which I think is like a great camera. It's the best value camera.
I don't know why it doesn't get more
there.
love.
It doesn't, because it's not as sexy. It doesn't record raw. There's a couple things. But if you're breaking into the industry and you want one good camera, I remember when we bought our like third camera, it was like essentially a piece of garbage for like $2,000, like, or $1,500.
I think it was the same price for a Canon 60D.
Yeah. And now to break in, it's like you don't have to spend nearly as much as what you did 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Like the cost keeps going down, so your barrier to entry has never been lower.
Yeah.
And you have a ton of people looking to sell you on good sales right now, because guess what? People like me that are like, hey, I'm worried about my business even surviving, maybe. We're not buying gear like we were a year ago. Last year, typically we'd be like, okay, we have 15, 20, 30 grand allocated towards spending on gear. This year we might be like holding off a little bit, which just forces these companies to have to lower prices, do more sales. You have the opportunity to buy gear at a steal, right?
Here's another side to that.
Yep.
Last year was, I think nobody would debate, the best year ever for prosumer camera releases.
Yeah.
You know, too professional, like just cameras.
Yep.
You know, between what Sony was bringing to the table, Canon's bringing to the table, Fuji, even Panasonic.
Yep,
like
the year before with
Blackmagic.
Yep.
Like nobody was doing, like, there's just so much innovation right now. So not only can you buy these cameras cheaper, you can get into the 4K game, the 10-bit game, 60 FPS game, whatever it is. The IBIS. I mean, come on. There's so much. You don't need that stuff to shoot a good wedding film. You can go buy a really, really cheap used Sony A7S II or whatever and make a living. You can get that stuff for a song.
Yes.
You know, you could probably get kitted up for like $4,000, especially if you go
start
used.
out. And if you have any experience editing, I mean, we just started a new company that's essentially, we show up with one handheld camera and we record like a 3 to 5 minute highlight. Like you can kind of create a package and create a product that doesn't need the gear that we used to have to be able to cover angles or whatever. It's just like, if you create the product, you can start with one camera, one lens. I mean, I think it's totally possible.
I don't even think, this is going to be sacrilege in the wedding film world, I don't even think you need audio.
Yeah, well, I mean, people have proven that you don't, but it maybe
to run a business.
Maybe you simply can't charge more. Like if someone's, and that's it. But to get started, that's a great way to get started and be creative, right?
Audio is one of the hardest things.
Yep.
If you suck at it and you don't want to do it, but you're a great editor. I mean, I'm just saying, like, there are a lot of ways to get into it and to get involved, and I think, like, you could go buy used Sonys, show up, shoot with one camera and if you're good, and if you actually practice and learn the moves, you show up with a gimbal and you shoot. Like, I think you can make a very saleable, your favorite word.
I hate that word so much.
He wants it to be sellable.
Very sellable. You say saleable, and I'd like want to slap you. Like,
right.
I'm not an English, nerd, but like I hate that word.
But you can create a very marketable product.
Thank you.
And that's what we're talking about here. Is like not what is anyone who's telling like this is how storytelling should work in wedding films. It's like, get out of here. Like, there's a lot of ways to do this, and like. You could do anything from like tons of audio, like pin weddings, to more of a music video style wedding film, and someone will pay for it. And that's what we're talking about here: is getting paid, having a job, being a wedding filmmaker. And so, yeah, I think that's a good point. Gear is cheaper, more accessible than ever. new stuff, used stuff. And it's not just that the gear, it's like what the gear can do is way more advanced, and it makes it easier for you to do your job. Do you remember like shooting on Canon 5D Mark IIs, no autofocus, like nothing?
I try not to remember.
Nothing.
Well, it's just, it covers your butt too, the gear that's out there today, which is like when you first start out, that's the thing you're the most afraid of doing, is making these critical errors like, oh, I formatted my card by accident or whatever. Now you have dual, camera slots. It's or dual card slots.
Well, even the storage cost, cost of storage. Remember how expensive it used to be?
Yes, it's brutal.
I was listening to Craig Adams on I was going back in time watching old videos. OG wedding film school videos, and he's talking about when he shot a wedding and he was shooting on a 60D at a wedding. And then he realized in the middle of shooting that he wasn't going to have enough card space. And he didn't have enough cards, and he had to switch over to 720p. And that you don't even know what it was like if you're getting into this industry.
I know. Well, even before that, like, if you don't know, this is a great thing to bring up in the first episode. Is Jason was actually and I love to tell this, you hate it, but Jason was my high school media teacher, and that's how we kind of got started. But back when I was learning Final Cut 7...
The barrier was pretty low, by the way, to teach high school media. So.
Yeah. But I just think it's funny. People always think that's funny. But, so back then it was even worse than when we started doing weddings. It was like you were recording on tape. It was like the storage cost was like through even worse than that. So it just progressively got better. It becomes cheaper and cheaper and cheaper to create awesome-looking media, right?
We're not more than 10 years away from this being accessible to everyone. So this is pretty new that everyone can get involved in this. So it's a great time to get involved.
So that brings me to my point number 3 of why 2021 is the best year to become a wedding videographer. And it's kind of due to the circumstances of what's going on. And it's never been a better time to be a creative in wedding videography. And I bring that up because you have so many people doing very different types of weddings nowadays. Instead of just doing your traditional, like, get ready, first look, ceremony, cocktail hour, get some details in between, go into the reception. You have this total wide open world of, like, we did a wedding last year. We shot it together where they're like, hey, we're going to do getting ready, and then we're going to do our ceremony, and then we're going to do a trolley ride around Boston where we stop at our church to see church people. There's going to be like 40 church people there. We're going to stop at a big open field overlooking Boston where all of our like friends will be. And then we're going to stop by the place where my fiance proposed, the Coolidge Theater. We're going to do some cool shooting. And it was just this crazy experience, right? And so you, as a new filmmaker, my argument would be you can do stuff that you normally couldn't do. You can be more creative. It's actually more fun than ever to be a wedding videographer and introduce these new ideas, right?
If you're new to listening to Jared and Jason, you never listened to the Wedding Pro show, first of all, go back and listen. I think there's some good content. But second of all, one of the things you'll know about us is that we don't really care so much about this idea of like, actually, I will say we really disagree with this idea that wedding films are some stepping stone career. Like it's not a real career. You're not a real creative. You're not a real filmmaker if you're making wedding films. I think that's garbage. I think a lot of wedding filmmakers make tons more money than all these people who are doing other stuff. So like, if you're into, money and owning your own business, great. If you like to go slave away on sets, which is also great, and there's a lot of people doing that, go do that. But like, it's not some end all be all to get out of weddings. Yeah. And I think for us, when we look at like this idea of like, what does it mean to be a professional wedding filmmaker? A lot of it's like, well, what kind of stories can I tell? Can I be creative? Is there a market for my vision? And I think that's maybe why people wanted to get out before, is like, maybe they're thinking like, well, nobody will pay me to do the thing I want to do. And I think what you're really hitting at is more like, there is a market for most any type of wedding film. Now, some are easier than others. So if you really are committed to an artistic vision, you have to maybe work a little harder, be a little smarter. But at the end of the day, like, the idea of what does it mean to be married, and what does a marriage look like, and what does a wedding celebration look like. Even with after COVID, even more so. Okay, is it destination? Is it small? Is it big? Is it luxurious? Is it intimate? Is it like, you have so many different types of stories you can tell as a wedding filmmaker, and that's even greater now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, completely. No, I'm really excited. I just, most of what I do nowadays is produce content for wedding film school. That's what we're starting to do. But then also I talk to brides literally every single day, like 2 to 3 times a day, usually, whether it's current brides or future brides, and just hearing or grooms. That's right. Most of the time it's brides, but
no.
Yeah.
Can't say that. Men and women call us equally.
Yes. But we, I am really impressed to hear what people are either transforming their wedding into, where they're like, hey, it's just going to be a backyard wedding. We want to put more emphasis on video, which is super fun. I'm super excited about it. We're lucky to be kind of receiving some positive sides of the virus, where we can be a little bit more creative.
We've got some pretty good COVID weddings.
Yeah. Or people now are just like starting off with like, look, we want to really base our whole wedding around creating an awesome wedding film. And honestly, like, I wasn't experiencing that a lot before. I've always been like traditionally like, hey, we got everything else booked. The only thing left we have to do is get a videographer. How many times do you hear that when you're talking to people on a consultation? And now it's like, hey, we see more value in it. And it's really an opportunity, I think, for our industry to change and become a focal point of people getting married, I think.
One of the statistics we like to talk about a lot is like 60% of brides and grooms, at least, what the?
Whoa. Sorry. Blooper track.
Weird.
That made a really like bassy like.
It's a big capsule.
Yeah.
One of the things we like to talk about a lot is just that like 60% of couples, at least previous to 2020, were getting wedding films. And
I think it's less, actually. I think it's like 54, 52.
Yeah, somewhere around there. But
essentially half.
We get that from a range of sources, from the Knots survey all the way to one of our favorite websites, the Wedding Report. And so obviously that number is going to grow. And so if you're getting into the industry right now, you need to understand like this is going to pick up, I think, exponentially in terms of how many people are looking for this product and demanding wedding films. And here's the other amazing thing is like, in my opinion, I have no data to back this up, wedding filmmakers and of course photographers, but image creators are the single most responsible group of people at branding the small celebration as actually a quality experience. I think wedding filmmakers even more than photographers, because the story you're telling is giving brides options and a vision for, wow, that would look like a good party. And I think we're going to start to see that like there's all these different types of weddings happening right now that are just generated from this terrible crisis, and there's a lot more opportunities.
Yep.
So like, for instance, a lot of the weddings we shoot, I think the average spend is definitely over 50 to 60 grand, which is not gigantic. There are $2 million weddings, but it's double the national average, I think.
Mm-hmm. In our area, I think it's like 36. So we're
yeah. And so we're on the like a little higher end scale locally of the weddings that we shoot, right? And demanding a decent amount of their budget. But imagine if these people who are getting married for like 20 grand no longer have to pay for all these guests, and all they're paying for is you.
Yeah.
Like, think about how much more money they're still going to spend their 25 grand, but they're going to get better food and a better wedding film. I don't have data to back that up.
Yeah.
But I do think that is where we're headed is, of course, big parties aren't going away. So we're always going to be a part of those celebrations, but there's going to be more films for more filmmakers with different visions.
Yep. I totally agree. Let's talk about item number 4. And this is our final point. I know it's number 4 is not very saleable on YouTube and these podcasts.
I mean, if you're this far into the video already,
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, this is the throw-in. Let's just say 3 and a throw-in, huh?
yeah, 3 and a thrown. Bonus point.
So number 4 is Wedding Film School is back and cranking out awesome content, and the education, what you can learn for free, has never been better.
There's
right?
no one else on YouTube talking about these topics, but in terms of wedding film.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, it's kind of
No, there's anywhere from Matt Johnson, Wedding Film School, to some degree. There's other people who do other types of filmmaking and talk about wedding films. Just camera guys in general. Just you can become a pretty skilled wedding filmmaker for free on YouTube, on podcasts.
Yeah. I'm really excited to see the memes of not another wedding education curriculum. Those ones, I'm really excited to be on one of those with providing a new podcast.
It's my dream.
Providing, more YouTube videos on Wedding Film School and putting stuff out there.
We got like not a ton of like podcast reviews. People just generally subscribe and listen. But one person was like, "Those guys are the most arrogant people." And I was like,
we made it.
Somebody give me hate mail. 1 star.
Yeah. And I understand, I understand where those people are coming from, because it's like, honestly, but at the same time, I think we keep on coming back to, like, we do see a lot of growth in our industry, and the way that we're going to, raise all boats proverbially is going to be by just putting out a better product. I say it all the time. I think photographers are 5 years ahead of us in terms of what they're creating, their vision for the industry. They're like, it was like 5 years ago where people were like, I'm going to start doing just elopement ceremonies, and I'm a photographer, adventure photography, bench heist, all these awesome photographers who are like, we're going to go to the top of Yosemite and do all this stuff. And now you see a lot more of the videographers
even in photographer,
doing it.
like photographers are talking about click funnels and like email marketing and all this stuff, and like we're like, is Facebook still good? Like that. And part of that, I think, is I understand, which is like, this isn't a rip on you photographers, but you don't have as much technical stuff you got to know.
Oh, you can talk as much smack about photography. This is Wedding Film School, Jay. You can talk smack about photographers.
But honestly, like, in terms of creatives, like, I'm pretty inspired by a lot of photographers.
Same.
And love the work, and they're great people. Like, we're more plugged in with photographers because that's who we work alongside every single week at weddings. And so we have a lot of photographer friends, and one of the things you see is like their brand consciousness, their connection with their fans and followers, like the things that they're marketing, their branding, the things that we kind of like gear, editing, gear, what's the best LUT, blah, blah. It's like, and I think that's changing, right?
Yep.
And hopefully not only when we educate and when we talk and when we connect in community about wedding filmmaking, we're not just talking about the same tired content that we've always talked about in the wedding film world, but we're realizing like there's opportunity here to go further and be better. And it's not just by making better films.
Yeah. Creatively and as a business, trying to, curate your, customer. There's a million different things business-wise that, I think a lot of people can get better at, myself included, man. I mean, it's just
there's so much to do.
So much to do and never enough time. So it's really just a matter of, figuring out what's best worth your time. So
luckily, there's always someone who's killing it that you can be inspired by.
That's it.
I was going to just say, I think I disagree with you a little, which is 2021 is going to be a good year.
Yep.
But I think 2022 is going to be the year.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be where all these factors are going to coalesce, and there's going to be a bumper crop of opportunities for people. And honestly, maybe this is the best year to get in because a lot of us experienced people are experiencing a little bit of pain. But 2022 is going to be, I think, the biggest year in our industry ever. Across wedding, everything. Like the amount of, if you can survive obviously 2020, but also you get through 2021 and don't want to kill yourself because of all the editing you have to do. I'm telling you, hang in there.
Yeah.
Hang in there because there's going to be an incredible opportunity of we're not going to have the market all bogged down by all these rescheduled weddings. There'll probably be some, but not to this degree. And like, there's just going to be this demand.
I have a great comparison to make.
Yes.
If 2021 is the 2017 of Bitcoin.
Oh, no.
2022 of wedding videography is the 2020 of Bitcoin. So get in before the getting is really good. When you're actually be ahead of the industry, you can make mistakes in 2021 and be prepared for an insane year of profit and money making.
Yeah, and that's a great point to end on is for every one of us in the wedding film community, what are you working on in 2021? What's your plan to grow your business? Please don't just sit on your laurels or don't even just let yourself go into survival mode. Like, keep challenging yourself, because if you can build that brand, if you can get that website fixed, if you can fix a few problems, even in the middle of all these reschedules and all this craziness, I think you're going to start to see that 2022 is where the payoff is going to be awesome. And I think a lot of people are going to be like, at the end of 2022, like, basically my 2020 negatives got wiped out by how good 2022 went. And so definitely hang in there. 2022 is going to be awesome. And 2021, it's going to be great too. There's going to obviously be issues. Who knows? We don't control coronavirus, wouldn't that be crazy if we did? If it was
the key is wedding videographers.
Wedding videographers. But no, like, we can't predict how that's going to turn out or any of these different things. But I'm just telling you, I know it. If you can hang in there, and you're creative, you're resilient folk out there, hang in there, because I think it's going to be a good year, and I think you got that. Yep.
So let's wrap this thing up. Guys, I do want to also mention there's a thing going around. You may have gotten an invite, maybe not, but we are inviting people to join us on Clubhouse this week. We're going to have a weekly Clubhouse. Kind of essentially the way we're seeing this is a comment section of the podcast. So an interactive kind of comment section.
A discussion. So
you can actually be a part of community, right? And ask questions in the future. It's probably going to be both of us at first, maybe one of us down the line. And then also, as we're having more guests on the podcast, we want to invite them to actually come on as well and answer questions as well. So make sure you're joining. We're actually going to talk this week. I believe it's January 21st, this Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Make sure you are following me, Jared Haas, Jaredhas, on Clubhouse. If you need an invite, why don't you just DM the channel on Facebook or on Instagram, the official Wedding Film School Instagram account, and we can send you an invite. I believe I have quite a few more. Jason has a few as well. Someone on the team will let you in. We want to just have a discussion. We want to invite you to contribute, ask questions, because Jason and I obviously don't have all the questions or the answers, and we really want to invite you to be a part.
Yes, that is true.
Yes.
All right. Hey, so listen up. This is the end of our episode. Okay. Hopefully you loved it. And if you did love it, we want you to follow. We would love it if you can give us a review on any of the platforms you're on. And, of course, head over to YouTube. Check out all the other content on there. And definitely subscribe. But you know what's even better than subscribing, and it really helps us even more? Hitting that little bell that lets you know, the alert bell that says, hey, here's a new upload, because we really, really want to be able to get really good feedback of what's interesting to people, and it really helps us to know, like, what are our subscribers into. So definitely head over there, do all that stuff. Thank you so much for checking out the Wedding Film School show, the first ever episode. There's a lot more to come. We cannot wait. Have an awesome day.
I'ma get right in my bag. Why you gonna try to get mad? Everybody wanna keep up. Don't you know I move too fast? I'ma zip right past. Drip all on my swag.